Senator Runner.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I went to the reception today and met each one of these ladies, and it's incredible. They're in their 90s. You wouldn't guess it by their attitude and their volunteerism that they still go and volunteer at the Rosie Museum. So it's incredible that they're here in their 90s, and I hope we can continue the tradition of volunteering when we're in our 90s. Thank you, ladies, and it was a pleasure meeting you all this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Again, to our original Rose of the Riveters, we are proud to welcome you to the State Senate floor. Thank you so much for coming. Any other privileges of the floors? Any other privileges of the floor? Seeing none. Messages from Senator De Leon at his desk. Senator De Leon.
Colleagues, it is with great privilege that I introduce my counterpart from the great state of Illinois, Mr. John J. Cullerton. Senator Cullerton serves as the Senate Pro Tem of the Illinois State Senate, serving the 6th District. His district is made up of a very diverse population of about 200,000 people. It includes a lively, large swath of downtown Chicago, much like my own district in Los Angeles. In fact, my cousin, Jessica, an attorney in Chicago, is one of his constituents. The 6th District is also home to the historic Wrigley Field, but John assures me that the whole district is not cursed, just the Cubs right there. As our great majority leader says, every year is their year, right there. So with that, I had the pleasure of actually meeting Mr. President Pro Tem of Illinois just recently at the Senate President's Forum last year in Puerto Rico. A couple things that I think will make my colleagues very happy in the Republican, on the Republican side. The vast majority of the President Pro Tems that were congregated in San Juan, Puerto Rico are in fact Republican. On a bipartisan note, the president of the Senate President's Forum is actually a Democrat from Chicago, from the state of Illinois. But it was a wonderful gathering, a bipartisan gathering of sharing ideas with each other, irrespective of one's political affiliation, one's state, whether you're Midwest, whether you're rural, whether you're in a coastal state, urban. It really was a fantastic time in a bipartisan way with our Republicans and Democratic friends to really engage on substantive policy issues. And I really do thank you, John, very much for this invitation. Now, John is visiting us with his lovely wife, Pamela, Pam, who is a Californian. Hence, she enhances his value very much. Being from Chicago, she is a native Californian up north all the way in Ukiah. And this is a wonderful opportunity with my counterpart, with Democrats as well as Republicans, to exchange ideas, to exchange what works and what doesn't work. I know that we're working on secure choice, retirement security in Illinois as well as in California together, which impacts all of us, Democrats as well as Republicans. He's come to visit us all the way from Illinois. Let's give it up for the Senate President Pro Tem of this great state of Illinois, Mr. John J. Cullerton. Madam President.
Please, Mr. Pro Tem.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Pro Tem. It's an honor to be here. As you know, you've met my wife. Since my title is the President of the Senate, I refer to her as the Speaker of my House. And that, believe me, is the way it is at our house. It's really, I'm happy to be in a state where you've actually passed a budget. That's something that we have not done in Illinois. We have a supermajority of Democrats, Republican governor. We have gone 8 months without a budget, huge deficit spending, and no end in sight. So things could be worse. And I think you guys have done a pretty good job in that regard. One other thing I want to mention that is a positive thing. 3 weeks ago, we had one of our former members who came back to address us, former State Senator Barack Obama, who I sat next to for 8 years, to come back as the President of the Senate to address us. It was such an honor. He spent about a half hour with 15 members of our caucus who he had served with. 6 former colleagues from the Republican side came in, and the Secret Service guy said he had not had more fun in his whole presidency. So it was really an honor. So keep in mind, look to your left, look to your right. Maybe one of your colleagues might become the President of the Senate or the President of the United States someday. So once again, thank you very much for the honor to be here. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pro Tem. Mrs. Cullerton, we welcome you to the great state of California. Messages, any additional privileges of the floor? Seeing none, messages from the governor will be deemed read. Messages from the assembly will be deemed read. Reports of committee will be deemed read and amendments adopted. Motions, resolutions, and notices. Okay. Colleagues, at this time, the regular session will stand in recess, and the second extraordinary session will be convened. The prayer and the pledge will be deemed complete. Conference reports, file item number 1, Senate Bill 2, Senator Hernandez. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 2 by Senator Hernandez, enacting to Medi-Cal and making an appropriation therefore.
Senator Hernandez.
Madam President and members, with more than 12 million individuals in this great state on Medi-Cal, it's more important than ever that we do all we can to bolster this program. The bipartisan plan before you brings in almost $8 billion in federal funding. Let me say that again. $8 billion to our Medi-Cal program over 3 years, while lowering the overall annual tax burden on our health plans. The structure of this MCO tax reform may be complex, yes, I agree, but the net effect of the proposal is quite simple. The proposal provides a stable, ongoing funding source for Medi-Cal. It allows California to maximize its share of existing federal dollars, and we're always complaining that we don't get our fair share. It will not negatively impact premiums, and we have gone painlessly to make sure that that doesn't happen. It will deliver $106 million net benefit to the plans, and it allows us an appropriately funded developmental services for a community that has been suffering much, much, much too long. This bill has broad support from stakeholders. It has no opposition whatsoever. I proudly serve as a member of the legislature for almost 10 years, and I can say without hesitation that this proposal is the best example of a win-win that I have ever seen since I've been in the legislature. I truly believe that every senator in this chamber should support it, and I will be disappointed if some of my colleagues choose to support the DD spending later today without supporting the mechanism to pay for that spending. However, whether this bill passes our House with a unanimous support or a bare minimum of votes that are necessary, let me state that passing this bill today provides government, proves that government still works and that Democrats and Republicans in this great state can come together across party lines and solve some real problems. And members, with that, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Discussion or debate? Senator Huff.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, my tenure in the legislature, it's become apparent that we can all look at the same set of data and come away with different conclusions. Part of that has to do with representing our districts. Part of that comes to do with our philosophy of life, perhaps politics. There's a lot of things that go into that. But today I rise in support of what I believe is an important health care plan which will bring more than $1 billion in federal funding back to California, avoiding cuts in health care programs for vulnerable Californians. Given the volatile nature of our state's general fund, my vote today helps set up changes to ensure that Medi-Cal continues to support 13 million of our disabled and most vulnerable Californians, including those with autism and cerebral palsy. And frankly, this agreement is far better than the expansive tax increases found in the previous MCO proposal that would have raised health insurance taxes by over $650 million, impacting more than 24 million Californians. This new bipartisan reform plan is a win-win for California. It's a net $100 million tax cut reduction, reducing the cost of health coverage for many Californians. This program protects California taxpayers by using the savings from the new federal funds to pay down over $400 million in state debts and liabilities. Paying down the current state retiree liability has long been a priority of mine. This will reduce the retiree health care liability by $240 million this year, which is critical to ensuring fiscal solvency for the state and not passing this massive debt burden on to future generations. The plan provides a net tax savings of over $100 million that will benefit Californians who must now buy health coverage. And finally, this bill represents our commitment to our developmentally disabled residents and their families. As an elected representative, I've long fought to secure funding that will improve services for the developmentally disabled and prevent the closure of skilled nursing facilities throughout the state. Every time we've had difficult budget decisions to make during the recession years, we've had to make painful cuts. And every time our disabled citizens got the worst of it. This bill restores what was previously cut to intermediate care facility developmentally disabled providers, along with a 3.7% across-the-board increase. Community-based providers that serve individuals with developmental disabilities will have more than $300 million in new funding to help people with autism, cerebral palsy, and other disabilities. The proposed plan also includes over $120 million for skilled nursing facilities that serve fragile patients with specialized medical needs. Without these funds, more than 50 such facilities statewide could be forced to close their doors. I applaud the tireless work that the California Association of Health Facilities has done with the administration for the last 14 months in order to restore an appropriate level of care for our most underserved and disadvantaged citizens in California. This is a bipartisan negotiation that protects California healthcare consumers, reduces taxes, pays down debts, and protects our most vulnerable residents, and I urge your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Huff. Is there any further discussion or debate? Any further discussion or debate? Senator Stone.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, we all know that a third of the state of California is now enrolled in the Medi-Cal program. Yet we don't have physicians that are willing to take these Medi-Cal fees because we've clawed them back so far, so much over the past decade. Senate Republicans have authored proposals to increase Medi-Cal reimbursements, and unfortunately, those bills just sit and are not even allowed to go forward in a hearing to capitalize on our record-breaking revenues that we have coming into the state of California. Senator Nielsen and I authored a bill in the special session that would have used ongoing new revenues to pay for the developmentally disadvantaged communities and for funding Medi-Cal. Unfortunately, they were not allowed to go to hearing. So what do the proponents of this tax want? They want a tax increase on every person in a managed care plan to pay for services that frankly can be paid with existing revenues. The proponents have tied a tax increase on managed care plans to the funding of the developmentally disabled, which I find frankly offensive. I have a granddaughter that's autistic. She gets wonderful services daily from the Inland Regional Center in San Bernardino. When the proponents threaten to cut her funding if I don't vote for a tax increase on managed health care plans, it makes me angry. My friends, the facts are really clear with this issue. My district is made up with many hard-working, middle-class men and women who struggle every day in a state that has the second highest taxes in the entire country to make ends meet, where they have to make choices, important choices, in order to move their families forward. They have to decide whether they're going to pay for a doctor, whether they're going to pay for pharmaceuticals, or whether they're going to pay for food. And I think that's wrong. We can fully fund our developmental services with ongoing revenue. Ongoing revenue that's $1 billion more than was anticipated. All we need is 35% of 1 month's revenue, and we can fund the developmental services that are needed. Why is it that we can't find 40% of a month's revenue and just take the bull by the horns and not saddle yet another tax on our middle class? The health plans have gone to support on this bill. Why? Because they've agreed to certain tax benefits that will hold them harmless to new taxes. Certainly, nonprofit healthcare plans aren't going to achieve the same benefits. But what about the consumers? Will consumers be guaranteed that their rates will not go up? Is there anything written in this bill that will codify the fact there will be no increases to any citizens in the state of California? No. Will consumers be guaranteed that they're going to get better access to health care in the state of California through this bill? No. I think all of us in the room know and realize that if we raise taxes, somebody's got to pay the bill. Somebody's got to pay the freight. And these insurance companies will, in fact, either increase their profits by increasing their rates on hardworking Californians, or they may deny care. But the bottom line is the consumer is going to get hurt with this bill. According to the Center for American Progress, the middle class is essential for the economic growth since so much of their disposable income is spent on goods and services. Do we really want that disposable income that's spent in our state on higher medical costs as a result of this proposal? The health plans have come on board with this proposal by saying they won't raise rates on consumers because of the special carve-outs on obscure tax loopholes. Many of you are going to commit to this tax today without any guarantee that the federal government is going to say this is nothing more than an end run to not doing what the federal government has asked us to do, and that is to tax all healthcare plans across the board fairly and freely so that we can capitalize on this money that the federal government wants us to match. I'm in full support of going after these billions of dollars of federal funds. In fact, a lot of the revenue that we have coming into the state of California is actually from another tax, from Prop 30, that was passed, a temporary tax. We have those resources today to get these federal matches for many years ahead of us. Why did the plans move forward to support this deal? They got the tax breaks. They got pressure to support it, or else more regulations would come down on them. And for those reasons, I don't blame them for stepping up to the plate. We have organizations that historically would oppose these types of taxes that choose for this bill to remain silent. But we know that these companies will recoup their taxes, their losses via the tax breaks and other ways. Again, higher premiums, denials of coverage, and the like. Let's look at who makes up the people who will pay more under the MCO tax that we're considering today. It's going to affect each and every one of our districts. Despite having the highest revenue in our state's history, the poor and the rich will not feel any pain that we're contemplating here today. Middle class earnings, according to the Huffington Post, have declined the most in California when compared to 49 other states. We have more bankruptcies, foreclosures, and the Tax Foundation has documented we have the third highest tax burden in the United States, and now we're going to add to that. Are we really willing to raise taxes on hardworking Californians again to pay for something that we can do with our existing revenue streams? In a time when a majority of Americans, 63% of Americans, my friends, don't have $500 in a checking or savings account, and yet you want to tax these same citizens $50, $100, $150 a month more to pay for a Medi-Cal program we can afford to do ourselves. I want to be very clear. We need an increase in Medi-Cal funding. We need to fully fund the developmentally disabled, and we must recognize that we have a multi-billion-dollar budget surplus. We don't need to raise taxes to pay for our most vulnerable, and we don't need to increase premiums on hard-working Californians, the middle class, the working class that struggle every single day to pay for health care, to pay for all the other taxes that they have to pay for in our state. Our gas taxes. When you go to the hardware store, you've got to pay a tax on wood. We all pay the CRV fees. Well, most of us don't go and redeem those fees. Those are just a tax that our haulers get to have the benefit of. The bottom line is that our existing revenues are sufficient. We should also remember that Obamacare promised that we'd be able to keep our doctor and we pay less. And we've all seen that that has not been the case. We've witnessed a very clear message in the presidential debates that there is this anti-establishment fervor that is building on both sides of the aisle. If this vote is successful, we will be adding to that fervor. We will be adding to that anger at a time when many people are paying attention to this vote, especially those on my side of the aisle that have expressed confidence in our party moving forward and having balance here in the state legislature in the years to come. So today, my friends, I will not be voting on the MCO tax. I think it's wrong. I think it's a bad deal for Californians, especially working and middle-class families that are working hard to make ends meet. Please join me in voting no on this bad deal for Californians.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion or debate? Any further discussion or debate? Mr. Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, and I respect very much the difference of opinions here today. But today we have an opportunity of monumental proportions, something that we simply cannot afford to give up. As you know, the current MCO tax not only expires, but quite frankly is out of compliance with new federal regulations. I was in the negotiating room, so I can tell you from firsthand, personally, the negotiations, and I won't get into all the tidbits, but it was a really positive, forward-thinking, what can we do for the whole state of California, irrespective of political ideology or parties, irrespective if you're from a rural, central, coastal area, northern or southern California. How can we all come together to work for the most unfortunate? This brings, as we know, stability, much needed stability to Medi-Cal. It frees up $1 billion, which we're going to make tremendous amount of investments, long-term investments in the developmentally disabled community. This is not only an extraordinary session, but this is an extraordinary bill. And I want to thank the governor's office. I want to thank our counterparts in the assembly. I want to give a very special thank you to our chair of the health committee and all the folks who have worked so hard on this measure. It has support from across the spectrum, from groups that are usually at odds with each other, from the chamber to consumer groups to plans as well as providers. It has Republican support. And if I may quote some of the supporters, this is the former Republican leader of the Assembly, that is Christine Olson from Central Valley. Quote, who benefits from the MCO plan? Every Californian. Cutting debt, helping disabled, improving healthcare access, saving California $1.3 billion. Great package, explanation point. The California Chamber says the plan preserves critical funding for the state's Medi-Cal program without, quote, without undermining the affordability of commercial health care purchased by employers, families, and individuals. This is the California Chamber of Commerce's own literal quote. Anthem Blue Cross says the plan, quote, balances the need to protect $1.1 billion in Medi-Cal funding with the need to control costs and maintain competition in the commercial market, end quote. The California Medical Association, CMA, the doctors that we trust, says that failing to extend and moving forward with a tax reform package, quote, would almost certainly exacerbate the problems accessing providers in medically underserved areas, but in particular, rural areas in the Central Valley and the Inland Empire. And I think that includes Riverside County. Now one can tell Blue Cross or Blue Shield or Health Net or Kaiser what to do. These are the big boys when it comes to these healthcare plans throughout the country. It was honest, hard negotiations that becomes a win-win-win situation where we can all come together. That's why when we have folks like the LA Daily News, San Fernando Valley, Fresno Bee, Whittier, areas that have been historically Republican strongholds or more moderate to conservative vein of politics, all of them have come on board because they realize when Democrats and Republicans come together, we can accomplish a lot of great things for Californians. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Senator Hernandez, please close.
Thank you, Madam President, members. So assuming we have, yes, we have record-breaking revenues, but if we were not to do this, and if we were to use our existing revenue streams, how could we leave federal dollars on the table? We as elected officials would not be doing our due diligence to leave $8 billion of federal funding over 3 years. How could we do that? You know, I've also heard that this is going to be a tax on the middle class. When you look at the deal that was put together, when there's going to be a net increase of $106 million to the plans, none of this is going to be passed on to the consumers whatsoever. And I also heard that there is going to be, that because of this, the insurance companies are going to have to increase profits just to cover this. Well, let me tell you about increasing profits for health plans. There's this thing in the federal law called the medical loss ratio, which means even if they have increased profits, they can, the 85 or 80% of that has to go back to the consumer, and any profits go above that, it goes back to the consumer. And also I heard that there was going to be denial of coverage. Well, we all know with a federal health plan that no one can be denied with a pre-existing condition or no one can be denied of coverage whatsoever. This is a good deal for the state of California to draw down this federal money. But in closing, I definitely want to make some comments and recognize some individuals who have gone above and beyond. First of all, I'd like to obviously thank the administration for all the work that they've done with us, the Pro Tem for his leadership job and allowing his staff to work with me, Secretary Dooley, who has done an incredible job, Jennifer Kent, Mary Cantwell, of course the California Association of Health Plans, and my staff, who have done an incredible job, as well as I said, the Pro Tem staff. And with that, members, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Anderson? No. Bates? No. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? No. Block? Aye. Canella? Aye. De Leon? Aye. Fuller? No. Gaines? No. Galgiani? Aye. Glazer? Aye. Hall? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg? Aye. Hill? Aye. Hueso? I. Huff. I. Jackson. I. Lada. I. Leno. I. Leva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. I. Mitchell. I. Monning. I. Morlock. No. Morrell. No. Wynn. Nilsson. No. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. No. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wykowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Ayes 28, noes 11. The measure passes. Senator Hernandez, for what purpose do you rise?
For under motions and resolutions, Madam President,
Please proceed.
I respect unanimous consent to submit a letter to the Journal regarding SB 2 and secondary extraordinary session.
Seeing no objection, it will be granted.